Rocking Chair Session. With Elisa Di Battista and Maria Teresa Barber.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our 4th of July special edition
of RCS Rocking Chair Sessions with our special Volume 12 guest, Deming King Harriman. Welcome, Deming.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the 4th of July of all days.
On the major holiday of the United States, right? It's like a big one.
Ready to celebrate.
We're ready to celebrate here, yeah.
And we're quite excited to have Deming because she's on her way out. She's flying out to Spain today, so we're very grateful that she stopped by to grace us with her presence before she departs on her voyage. I guess just to start, Deming, saying how it is the 4th of July, where were you born?
Are you American at all?
I am. It's funny. I was born in Boston, but I moved to Miami when I was 5, so grew up here. I guess my 4th of July background story, I know that on my mom's side, she's pretty well-documented history of family, and I know that we have some family members who've signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We have Mayflower ancestors, so on that side, yeah, very from the get-go,
American,
the great American experiment, yeah. Part of that.
That's so great.
That's incredible. Wow.
I recall an outfit as well. You still have a beautiful dress.
Oh, yeah. A lot of historic fashion pieces have been kind of kept in my family as well. So it's very exciting. I actually didn't realize that until recently. So they've been kind of coming out of the woodwork. My grandmother, she lives in Ohio, and she has this huge kind of farm barn garage, and she cleaned it out recently, and so all this really amazing stuff kind of came up, and we got, our family's loves the fashion, obviously, so we got all that good stuff.
And so
wow, and it fits right into your artwork as well, right? Because you play so much also with the costuming, the masking,
absolutely,
and history.
I'm always happy to get that.
Yeah. Incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess just to dive a little bit, you said you moved to Miami when you were 5. Growing up here locally, where did you start? Your, I guess I would say, art background. What did you start doing when you were little that kind of piqued your interest?
I always knew that art was the direction that I was going to be headed in. My mom is a really amazing painter and kind of did that on the side. And my grandfather did watercolors. So there's always this encouragement to do that.
Cool.
And it was always the thing that I felt the most confident in, the thing that, really was a true calling right away. And I always, took art programs on the side and summer, things. So it kind of was wherever I could, I would try to express that.
Did you also have art classes in high school or?
Yeah, it was very funny. Everyone always asked me if I went to Dash, which of course it's one of the best schools for art, but in 8th grade, I had an existential crisis where for the first and really only year of my life, I was like, no art, I'm going to do something completely different. I'm giving it up, and decided that I would not go to Dash and apply at all, and went to a different high school instead. So I missed the boat on that, but it was all okay because we had AP art classes, things, and I actually, some of the people who I graduated with who did AP art with me are also doing amazing things with their artwork in LA and things like that. So, it turned out well, nonetheless.
It was a good crisis then.
Right, exactly. And, I'm still really close to my friends from high school. So it's all good in the end. No regrets.
And then after high school, you decided to go to Maryland. Did I read that right?
Yes. Actually, they stopped by my AP art class, and I was so wooed with the idea of seasons and something completely different from Miami. And so me and a friend of mine went actually together to MICA, and I loved it. It was a fantastic experience. Definitely different than Miami.
Yeah, and Micah also has like a really great reputation as an art school, and they're doing like amazing stuff up there. And you studied, was it graphic design or illustration? Illustration, right?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to write and illustrate children's books, or do animation, storyboarding, something along those lines is kind of where I thought at first my career path would go into. So I did a lot of illustration, and again, like Micah is such an amazing program. I mean, I really got to where I wanted to go, but there was definitely something that I couldn't quite accomplish with my illustration that the work I do now, the fine art, the collage, the mixed media, that really was, where I really shined, both in the work I was creating and the way I felt about the work. But I mean, no regrets at all with the illustration. I really loved it, and I was just kind of exploring illustration, and I had enough credits in the book concentration to get that as well. So I was really excited. I obviously knew kind of what I wanted to do. And it's also funny, I used to kind of push aside the illustration aspect of my artwork, and I thought of it as kind of, I did that, and then now I'm doing this, and they're completely separate, and they don't, influence each other at all, which of course is impossible. And now
because you're still you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I did do all of that for years, so it definitely influenced my work now. And now that I've been doing the collage and the fine art, I really see that the storytelling, the characters, it's all the same kind of mindset that I was really diving into the illustration world in, which was to create stories and characters. And I think that one of the things I realized was the way that illustration, the paths it provided, were not the stories I wanted to tell, or the way to tell it. And with the collage and fine art, it was just the process was so much more free, and I could really explore the mediums, which is a little bit more abstract. I like all this kind of ancient art history, and I like, exploring the iconography of all of that and the symbolism, and it was much easier to dive into it in the medium I work in now. So
when did that bridge occur from the illustration and the drawings to the collage? How did that occur at Micah?
I took a collage class, actually, and I mean, it just changed everything. I completely dropped everything I was doing after I realized that this medium was what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed the idea of looking at all these materials that were already in the world and then puzzle piecing them together to create something new. I thought it was this really, metaphorical experience, taking something that you're given and turning it into something you want to see happen. And I really liked the way that it shaped the way I thought about color and composition, and the challenge of finding the right materials to create something that at first glance is very painterly, very seamless, and then as you get closer, it's all this detail and cutting and decision making. And I loved all of that. And I had a teacher who really just let us do whatever we wanted to do with collage. And when I teach my workshops, I give some direction for those who are looking for it, but ultimately it's a very freeing experience because there's no wrong way to go about collage. And that's another thing I really liked, is that it was much more of an exploration of the artists and their mindset, how they think about the work. And it was just a brand new world for me. So I really dived into it. And that was, of course, second semester, senior year, right as I was about to leave. I was like, oh
my God,
I'm going to do something completely different. Never mind.
Yeah, well, good timing before you left, right? At least you found your calling, before you left Maryland.
Yeah. No.
Was that a decision something that you knew that you would come back to Miami after school, or did that just happen? Or
it definitely just kind of happened. I as I switched this idea of what I wanted to do, I was also very lost as to how to pursue that. And I had friends moving to New York, friends staying in Baltimore, and I just really had no path that seemed clear. And so Miami was, just to go back home and kind of, get my feet on the ground again and really see what I wanted to do. And that's when I got the residency at the Art Center, which really, that's, where I met Elisa. And, it changed everything. It really, it was all of the things that I needed to know to explore this newfound collage making, fine art. I had no idea about framing, galleries, preserving my work, showing my work, and any of that. So it was really the most helpful thing in the world. And at first glance, I really thought going back to Miami was this kind of, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm lost, I'm, going back to home, which I was really trying to get away from. But it ended up being this amazing decision that really shaped who I am today. And I've had so much opportunity to grow and show my work that I couldn't have made a better decision. So it really was kind of that the universe takes you in directions. You just have to work with it.
It's really like, I just talked to a friend of mine who went to the grad school in Washington, D.C. And I told her about the Bakehouse, and I told her like also about the Art Center. It's really something like a jewel that Miami has, right? Not every city has institutions like those two for like emerging artists, where you not just stay like, I know, for example, the Headlands in San Francisco, but usually for residencies you are able to stay a month or two or maybe 3, right? But you don't have these long-term, residencies where you really get to know, other artists and get to know the craft, kind of, and the business aspects also, right? It's kind of like something.
Really, that's what it was for me. And at the end of the day, more than just having a studio to play around with my work, I needed that experience.
The peers,
the business side of it, the connections of people who actually knew about my career and wanted to see me grow and cared about it. And I cared about their work and what they were doing, and these shared opportunities and just this really open community. And again, it was, not a month, 2 months, it was 2 years, and it was locals. And that made the difference, because it wasn't just, okay, and then I'll see you and you'll go off to your other part of the world. It was, no, this is my foundation for my home. And these people are there right, after the residency is over, obviously, like we've all stayed connected. And it really, it was an amazing experience. And I don't know where I would be without it, truly.
You mentioned workshops, which piqued my interest. You were a student, obviously, for 4 years, and all of a sudden you found collage, you fell in love with it. And then you mentioned workshops, and I know that you've done workshops at the Wilsonian with FIU, you've done workshops at Freehand, and you've done workshops here at the Bakehouse. Can you talk a little bit about what you do with your workshops and what you teach?
Absolutely. Well, the Wilsonian one is Scenes for Progress, which I'm so honored to be a part of that project. It is where high school classes will come into the Wilsonian, and they, in the class that they're taking, they're creating a zine where they talk about a political issue that these high school students care about. They split up into groups, and then they come to the Wilsonian to view the museum. We have some zines for them to look at, old history ones, and then they come to my class and we create the covers and the artwork for the zines that they're creating. And again, collage is one of those mediums where you just can't go wrong. And especially for these, they're not art classes, most of them. There's a lot of English classes, where kids aren't really, they don't consider themselves artists. And then they have to come here and work on this artwork and, for not a lot of time, and be into it and get it kind of, going. And it really is this medium where they can explore, and they don't have this, hesitation of I'm not good enough, because they're not working with something that, they have to come up with on their own. They're really taking the things that are presented in front of them and creating something new. So it's this really, nice medium to work with especially kids who aren't necessarily into art, having to do art for something that, they're really caring about. And the zines that they come up with, it's, again, I'm so proud, because I feel like these teenagers are able to talk about issues that they care about, that, you know, a lot of times people kind of don't give them credit for being as aware as they are, and they really get to explore, research, write about, do interviews, I mean, express their voice and express their opinions, and then, you know, in this thing that the adults are encouraging them to do, and giving them structure and a way to, an outlet to talk about these issues.
And then you top it off with the cover. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, I mean, it's just an amazing program. So again, so happy to be a part of that. And other classes I've done, like at Mocha and here at the Bakehouse, were more summer camp classes. I did, actually, it was a different zine class at Mocha, and it was more exploring kind of what the kids wanted to do, and creating storytelling and working with collage. In that regard, here it was, I mean, this is a little bit younger as well. So really getting them used to the material, getting them used to cutting out images, collaging them together, seeing, again, the puzzle piecing of it. And then I did a workshop I just got back from Wichita, Kansas at Hugh Gallery for my solo show. And I was
congrats on that. That's
thank
exciting.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was amazing. And I had never been to Wichita before. So it was very like, what will it be like? Who knows? I'm just going to go out there. And it was amazing. Amazing.
Okay, I can ask that question because I'm a stupid European kind
Stop.
of. Where is Wichita?
It's in Kansas, which
Kansas,
is,
okay.
yes. And, I mean, so everyone was so wonderful, so nice. The art, it was for an art crawl that they had the solo show opening for, and it was packed. I mean, people were very interested in the work, really cared. Again, so wonderful, so like great hosts of people. And I did this workshop the day after the opening, and again, it was a more adult crowd, and they were fantastic, so into the project. I really like my workshops to be fun. I want you to talk. I want there to be music. I really want you to have this opportunity to create something fun. But then collage is very meditative. It's the cutting out. It's the looking at tons of images. It's really fun and relaxing as well. And you can kind of really get into a good flow. And everyone was into it, and I was really happy about that. And the work they created was amazing. So I'm always like, it's always exciting to do.
Tell us a little bit more about the solo show that you had there. That's a big deal.
Yeah, they
How did you end up getting the opportunity to show in Wichita?
They emailed me, and it's always like, I'm always like, okay, they emailed me from Kansas. Who are these people? Why do they want me? How did they find me? But it was, a legit thing. And they found my work online. I think that I had work up in Saatchi art, actually. And he also mentioned he was looking at graduates from different colleges that he knew, other artists that he really enjoyed their work. And so Michael was one of them. And he was looking up that and, really enjoyed my work. We set up a time, and, they were so nice. I mean, really. And actually a month ago, I think it was, June, I did another solo show in a little town, Ligonier in Pittsburgh. And it really, it was just one of those things, like when people want to show your work and treat you with respect and excitement, and they really, really are, I don't know, like I am so excited to work with people who really care about what I'm doing and want to show my work as well. And if I had any advice at all, it would be to work with people who treat you like you're like a celebrity. And it's so funny because I don't think of, myself as like this like big artist or anything like that. I'm very much like, I'm still working on my craft. Like I've done all these things, but then you get to these galleries and they're like, you're, all this stuff. They make you feel so great about it.
They roll out the red carpet for you. Right?
And I'm just like, okay, I love it. I'll take it. But, and again, so wonderful. So, just what an amazing time. And, they were shipped my artwork up there. They let me stay.
Oh, they paid for it.
Yeah,
nice.
which is really...
To Pittsburgh?
To Pittsburgh, to Pittsburgh actually, it was this whole thing that worked out. So I was able to get my work shipped up there, Then it's the same solo show shipped to Wichita, and then it's coming back to me. And then Wichita, they brought me up there, which was again
so nice,
amazing. And really, you don't get those opportunities a lot. And the fact that, I mean, the workshop was another thing that really helped out, and it was a paid workshop, so that went into my being able, and you can work out these amazing things, and if the opportunity fits and is nice, and it really worked out, and that's all you can really ask for, is to have a great time doing these adventures.
You mentioned, you want to go, Maria?
What was the theme of the solo show, but just for our listeners also, like the current, the works that you showed there?
It was the same show that I did, or a similar show to what I did in my first solo show, which was Goddesses here in Miami, and I think it was 2014 at O Cinema. And it's the series that I was initially from when I started doing collage to really about a year and a half ago. I was working on this one large body of work, and so it had work from 2014, or not 2014, 2012, way back, and then up until 2014, 2015. And really, it's about that time where I found collage, and it was also a very meaningful time for myself, like, you know, as a person. I was really coming into my own. I was, you know, really having a hard time, and this body of work came with kind of getting over a rough patch and really becoming more of the person who I really wanted to be, and seeing that path and really going for it. And I didn't quite see that in the work when I was initially making it. It was much more just kind of doing whatever I want to do, and like letting it be free. And I realized that I continuously was creating this work, and as I, you know, the years kind of went on, I was like, okay, what is this about? And again, like with the Art Center, these questions, this challenging kind of, you're making this, but why are you making this? Like, what does it mean? Let's dive deeper. And I really realized it was this, I was channeling the way I was feeling, this empowerment, this female icon. Like, I was really wanting to have this representation of power and this positive power. And of course, with all the references, I took so much ancient art history, all the folklore of children's book writing, all of that tied into these fantastic characters. So it was really this whole years-long project about finding my empowerment, positivity, and making that a habit, and creating those intentions for just living life. And that, when that kind of is, it's now at its completion, I think. I mean, I still kind of create the goddesses every once in a while, but it's much more research-based and specific now. And this was much more intuitive and emotional. And so I really wanted to show kind of the full range of where that work went.
So you did basically a survey in these solo shows about the whole time that you were dealing with this imagery, with this concept.
Yeah, and you can really, like, there's a lot of different mediums that I start to work with as I get more comfortable with collage and more comfortable doing fine art. So it's kind of interesting. You can see the traditional collage, which is really just magazines, books, found imagery put together, and then I get more intricate, and then I start using my own photography. I start printing out on archival paper and then going back in. And I mean, the work I do now is even more complicated. I think what I realized is that I really wanted to have my own photography and more control over the images. I really love what collage and that serendipitous, you know, what the universe kind of throws at you with the materials and how your brain kind of figures it out. I still love that, but it was not getting me to where I wanted to go. And I think I needed to kind of, or that next level, I wanted to switch things up a little bit. And so, having more intention with my work, again, the research, and having specific subjects I wanted to focus on, I'm now taking my own photography. I'm creating my own costumes. I'm doing my own collage in Photoshop. And then what I realized at the very end of the Goddesses series is that I was doing that, but when I printed out that full Photoshopped collage, it kind of just seemed like a digital painting, which was beautiful, but I really missed that texture that you get with collage. You look up close and you're like, oh wow, it's so much more. And so what I've been doing is doing all of the work in Photoshop and then separating it, printing it out, and then recreating that collage aspect in the, more controlled imagery that I've created digitally. So, yeah.
Wow.
Well, when I interrupted you before, Maria, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. I was going to mention the storytelling. And so you kind of sort of delved in that with what the series was about, that you currently had your solo show in Wichita. Your storytelling, as you were saying, started off in a very traditional sense. And then you mentioned that you kind of sort of dove into taking your own photography, taking more control in terms of what the material you had accessible to you was. So my question is, going forward from that moment, where is your storytelling more or less taking you now? Like, what is it that you're doing now in your more current work?
Yeah.
Post-Goddesses.
Post-Goddesses, yes. I still like the mystical, the kind of legendary aspect, and I've been really into looking at alchemy, the kind of history of it, this 15th century practice that has really shaped a lot of things that we use now. I mean, it's kind of that beginning of chemistry and science, and I like this idea of the reality and not reality, the imagination, where that had this intersection, and the kind of occult meets finding real world practices. And then also I was always obsessed with the illustrations that came with it. It's just so mysterious and beautiful and intricate. And there's things that we recognize and things that we don't recognize. And the more I dived into it, it really was like I was reading a mystery novel and it's just so fascinating, how the symbols that they're showing in these illustrations all have meanings, and they tell you a story based off of what you're seeing. And I mean, there are this illustration actually means this chemical experiment that you can do. And then of course there's like another layer where they're like, actually that was just a facade for the people who didn't understand that it was really a spiritual practice for enlightenment. And it's just so funny because the more you read into it, the people take it differently, people see different things, and it's so fun. It's just such a endless thing to look into. And then of course I have so much inspiration for the body of work, so I've been creating these pieces based off of the research and the inspiration that I find and the symbology, and kind of playing with how do you tell a story where the symbols speak for you. And I really liked that, and I had not had some kind of consistent flow with that before. It was really just more of this metaphorical representation of empowerment, but no very specific things. And so I really wanted to start getting into that with my work, and I felt doing work that was representative of this amazing kind of practice and had all this stuff to kind of look into. That's kind of where I'm at now, is really fine-tuning my work for, the future, and then also really diving into this thing that is so inspiring to me. So I'm really excited about it.
Can you talk a little bit more about the picture that Elisa chose for your Instagram posting, for the preview? It has like a skull in it, and she used it for the Facebook and the Instagram shout out, like the preview that we always do.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because it's definitely like a post
Goddesses for
Goddesses,
sure.
right? Yeah.
That was definitely a time. Yes. The Undead King. I was trying to think of the title for it.
The Ended King.
Undead.
Undead.
Yeah, so
I thought like ended.
He's done. It's over.
like,
It's a good one. But so I really wanted to kind of step away from the Goddesses, or exactly what I was doing with the Goddesses, for a little bit. And this work was about doing intentions and making kind of, again, like symbols, things like that. I wanted to have the characters represent different more intention, with each piece. So the Undead King, I was really inspired by the tarot cards, things like that. I really liked the idea of like when you get the death card in a tarot, it's not like death is going to be upon you. It's much more of this, something's ending, something is beginning, it's this change. And I really liked that symbology. So I wanted to kind of create my own King of Death representing, more of a, things end, but that also creates new beginnings. And then that was also what I was talking about previously, the new kind of style of working where I created things digitally and then printed out again on archival paper. That was another thing with collage. I was really worried about having my work last throughout the years. And, this is another way to kind of work with that, is printing out on really nice paper and then cutting out and seeing kind of how I would do that, not doing that before. And I also really love the idea of working with relief. I was trying to find more dimension with my work, and I felt like having the characters actually come off from the page and having the cuts look more obvious by having it not completely flat on the paper was something that really created this detail. And so that was also that experimentation was with working with that, the patterns, things, and I really love that series. I feel like it really kicked off where I am now. And I definitely want to go back more into things like the tarot cards. I like the idea that there's something that people kind of can recognize. Because I feel like also like the stuff I like to work with is very, ancient art history and like legends and like occultism and things. And I find it all very fun and interesting. And I, take everything with a grain of salt and just get inspired by it. But there are definitely people who don't quite understand what I'm doing. So it's kind of, I also like to have that element of, I want people to feel like they're a part of it. And,
it's like a more accessible, probably like iconography, like tarot cards, people really know, right?
Yeah. So I do want to work with those things. And then alchemy. But I kind of want to bring alchemy to people to just kind of be like, this is something that you didn't realize you actually knew more about it than it's still kind of coming up. These, even things like I realized while I was doing all of this, like Harry Potter was well researched in alchemy, like the names that they drop and things. And it's so funny because you don't ever think about that. And, it's like, oh, this, or like famous philosophers and scientists were obsessed with alchemy. And you're like, oh, like this was something that at the time was considered this really predominant practice, and now it's completely forgotten. And this kind of like witchcraft, which at the time when it was being used, it was completely not at all. It was this really higher thinking and has been kind of shoved under the rug, which again is that mystery of, what happened. It's, as we change, as we evolve as humans, we kind of, our history kind of gets changed. And I like digging that up a little bit.
I guess I also wanted to ask you, turning in terms of like digging and things moving from, like you mentioned, your collage from being completely flat to more like pop-up collage, almost you could say, by making it kind of sort of more 3D-ish. You started taking, you said, your own photographs and then in turn making your own costumes and these photo shoots. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because that to me is like you're going from being this traditional fine arts artist, almost like you're becoming a designer. You're designing not just these sceneries and these stories, but you're also physically making these sculptural, wearable, and also like headpieces. Can you talk a little bit more about that and the growth from when you first started to where you're at now with these pieces?
Yeah, absolutely. I always have been into design and fashion. I worked as a graphic designer for a fashion company for a while, and my dad was in the fashion business, and so it was always something that was there and at the forefront of something I was really interested in, but never took a sewing class, never took a fashion design class, and it kind of was always something that I enjoyed but didn't have any practice in. And I realized that there was this opportunity. I mean, the goddesses that I'm creating, those are not just, characters. They're complete fashion. I mean, head to toe garments and things like that. And I realized how important I felt that was in the work. And I actually, I think that other people saw it as well. I did my second solo show was with the Miami Fashion Film Festival. They hosted my work because of the fashion aspects within it. And I really felt like, the thing that's missing is the fact that it's not in real life. Like, I want to wear these costumes. I want to become these magical characters. And I want other people to, or I want other people to really see it, like come off the page. It's there in front of you. It's not this abstract concept. It's physical. And I thought that creating these costumes would be part of that, and kind of fulfilling this desire I've always wanted to have as well, creating fashion pieces. So this is pretty brand new work I've been doing. The first piece that I've created was this headpiece that is half sun, half moon. It goes with the Alchemy series, and you see work like Alexander McQueen, where it's this fantasy art meets fashion and couture. And then also work like Nick Cage, where it's characters, it's kind of fashion avant-garde, but then it's also very fine art, very mixed media, costume design. And so it's like kind of drawing that inspiration. And it kind of looks like a fencing mask when I've created it. And I actually, while researching, I found this image of the sun and the moon fencing together. And so I'm actually recreating that image in my new work, using the headpiece that I've created and photoshopping it. And what I want to do is when I present this work, I also want to have these headpieces and costumes there as well, because I want to create work that if I were to go into a show, it would be something that would be really interesting to me. And I'm always trying to go to, if museums have fashion exhibitions, I'm there. Like, I love it. And I'm like, why can't that be something I include in my work as well? And so that's what I'm doing now, is creating these headpieces. I've been doing a lot of laser cutting, which has been really helpful. So I'm creating work with that. I actually just did a collaboration with FETA, this women's organization for arts and technology, and it's performance-based, a lot of it. So I did all these headpieces for this performance, and it's like once I decided that that was something I was interested in, so much opportunity lent itself to really getting into the projects. And right now it's just been the headpieces, but I'm looking to also start sewing and creating the garments and having that be something that, is part of the work. And I'm, so excited about it. And hopefully, it takes off and I can kind of have this dual medium of costume design, character design meets the fine artwork, and you really see where they come together. And,
interestingly enough, last week we had Andrea Spiridonakos here, who is a fashion designer, and who is downstairs at the Bakehouse, at the studio downstairs, and we talked to her also about, how fashion and haute couture always pushes more and more into the museum world, and it's also respected as a fine art, especially in a very conceptual way that Andrea is doing it as well. But then also, I wanted to talk about Michelle O'Cardona, who is an local artist from Miami Beach, right? And who did the
ballet, right?
The ballet for the Miami City Ballet, who did all the costumes and who did the stage design for the Midsummer Night's Dream, right? Which was incredible. And in the same summer, also had a show at the PAM, at the Paris Art Museum, Miami.
Yes, that was amazing.
Which was kind of like a survey of all her more sculptural pieces, but also a lot of found objects that she's always using. So it was just something that I also feel like people in the art world sometimes, build those boxes where you are not allowed to do this or you're not allowed to do that if you want to be a fine artist.
No way.
And I'm happy that it leaves, more and more the stage that those limitations, are no longer valid. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh yeah, I couldn't do what I wanted to do if I had limitations on the materials that were accessible to me, or that was really one of the detrimental things during college, was this concept of trying to be like what people think I should be or what they think is good work. And, you're not building your voice if that's what you're doing, is trying to be like other people.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's something to be said about referencing and getting inspired by others, but to like not give your intuition confidence, and to that exploration is so important, and really is the basis of what I do now, is that being able to explore. And like you said, I mean, truly the fact that we're like, even collage is a medium that's now becoming more prominent. It's, wonderful, because there's not these boxes that we have to fit into as artists, which means that the work is going to be exciting and unpredictable and new. And that's really what art, is for a lot of people, is this exploration of medium and creating things that the world's never seen before. And we're not going to get that if we just try to keep copying the past. And then Michelle O'Connor is, I love her work.
Oh, you do?
I do.
She came to my mind when you were talking.
And I was like, she's so great. I mean, even things like the Miami International Airport having the gold kind of fossils on the floor, which I always loved as a kid. And then realizing that was her, realizing her work. And then also, again, like the things that she did for Midsummer Night's Dream and the ballet. I mean, amazing. And again, that's the dream. I think these collaborative projects where you get to challenge yourself and challenge the work you're creating and make new things and see how does your artistic eye apply to other, facets in the world. And it's really exciting. I mean, I do like graphic design. I'm trying to do fashion. I'm trying to do illustration. And it's kind of, you realize that, you can do so much and explore so much. And I don't know. That's what makes it so exciting to be an artist, I think.
Yes, it's about the time. Do you have any upcoming projects you want to share with us? Any, like you mentioned, you're doing new work that you want to share going forward in 2017?
I'm definitely continuing with this project, and am hoping to show it in Superfine Art Fair. I will either be doing it for Art Basel this year, or they're going to Mexico City. So that's another opportunity I'm planning on exhibiting this work in. And really, I'm excited about, again, like we talked about, the costume design, these new pieces that I'm creating with the relief, this, like you said, pop-up kind of look. It, again, brings back to the illustration aspect. It always kind of never leaves, and I just can't wait. I really feel as though the work that is happening now is exciting and new to me, and then it seems like these are things that other people are exploring, but it's not like you see this all the time. And so I'm really excited to see kind of where it goes and how it happens. So I'm very excited.
Very cool.
And then I guess just to pick your brain a little bit, I know that transition seems to be a very big factor in like your jumps from, and growth, I should say, from illustration, collage, fashion, and then I guess pushing collage to like where it is now. How was your transition from being 2 years at the Art Center of South Florida to where are you currently residing in terms of studio practice, and how do you balance like work and studio?
Yeah, definitely. I was very sad to leave the Art Center just because it was like hanging out with your friends all the time. It was like camp. I don't know, like in that sense, I loved it. And I was sad to not see everybody as much as I used to, but I was able to get a studio in Little Haiti area. And it's an amazing space. I've really been able to kind of keep up my practice and my work. And it's not like, again, it's the fact that people were local. It's not like everyone kind of left. So we've really been able to stay in touch and go to each other's shows and, have studio visits, things like that. And the transition, it was more sad to kind of just not be around everybody as much. But I really felt like those 2 years prepared me for being in the business of art. And really having the confidence to show my work and just keep going. And the fact I didn't stop, I didn't stop creating work. I didn't stop showing work. And I feel like I'm just now realizing like how much that nonstop kind of go, it really does help, make you more everything. Everything is easier when you kind of have this experience behind your belt and you're like, okay, I've done this before. Like even like doing this, like I used to be so nervous talking and now I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. Like let's go talk. So yeah, it's exciting. And I feel like, my practice is just, going forward, and it's been great. And the experience at the Art Center was this, really wonderful foundation for the rest of my career, and gave me that push that I needed to feel like this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And it's just been going strong ever since.
How is your experience as you're also I don't know exactly the title that you have at Superfine Art Fair. You're is it a curator or an artist
liaison?
Liaison, right?
Yeah.
How is that informing your art practice and your artwork?
Goodness, let me just tell you, I look at art all day long. I've seen, I feel like over 1,000 artists at this point, just like looking at websites, looking at this, looking at that. Like I'm constantly, I go to art shows. The work I do also has me traveling, meeting different people. And it's been amazing. It really has been amazing. It's been one of those things where the balance between work and then art, like being an artist, has really been a beneficial blend. And, working with other artists, I mean, I love it. I love it so much. It's been an amazing experience to get to know artists around the world, galleries around the world. The people who Superfine brings to the table are also, I think one of the things we really, or what is really important to us is this professional, good person that you actually want to work with, like these. And so when the fair happens, I mean, it's so friendly. It's so fun. It's all the people that you want to know. It really reminds me again of the Art Center, this sense of community. And, it's not like this cutthroat or like, oh, I don't want to talk to you, or, oh, it's this really wonderful experience, for the attendees and for the exhibitors. And for me, being able to see all this artwork and see all these different practices, I'm not only inspired, but, I just get to see this range and compare it to my own work and kind of set the bar. And also it makes me feel confident in what I'm doing because I see other people and it just makes me feel like, oh, like I'm on the right path, or like, look at these people who have been doing this for so long. And I feel like it's research for, my own work. And it's been great, really wonderful.
Yeah, I have a similar experience with being a docent at Paris Art Museum. Yeah. I've been doing that for 2 years, and it's just like to look at work and to look at other artists and look at their resumes and look at how they got where they are now. It's really like inspiring, and how they developed their practice and to the point where they are now. It's really, really helpful to have that. And alrighty, we're almost ready for our last question, but do you have anything?
Yes,
of course. I know her.
I always have questions. Do you see grad school in your future?
I would like to go to grad school. It's definitely one of those things is when I graduated from MICA, I really wanted to go into grad school, but like I had mentioned, I completely switched what I was doing and it didn't make sense to go into grad school with something that I wasn't totally sure what I was doing with it. And now that I've had this time to show my work, really divulge into the process of what I want to create and get to know myself as an artist more, I really feel as though going into grad school could be something beneficial, and I could really take the full advantage of what it could bring. But it's also one of those things where when you're showing work and you have a wonderful job and you're doing these things, like you don't want to take time out when all the things that you want to have happen are happening. So it's definitely that question, but I've been thinking about it more and more seriously. And it really, at the end of the day, I wasn't thinking about it until I felt this wave of confidence in what I was, my like 5-year plan and my 10-year plan of where I wanted to see myself as an artist. And now that I kind of have that, grad school can make a lot more sense. It's because I can be really strategic about it and really make my goals happen. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely on the table.
Okay, Marie, your turn.
Yay! Okay. Do you have any school in mind?
I don't. It's the really, really hard idea of, do I leave Miami or do I explore a new place and, really go for it somewhere else? It's so hard. That's another reason why I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, just because it's, Miami's been so amazing. Mm-hmm. It really has. We're at the forefront of this, community of artists who are really getting on the map. And Miami, we have Art Basel, but it's this year-round programming of arts that is going on that I love and don't want to quite leave yet. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the world is out there. Yeah. So,
and you're going to Spain this afternoon, right?
This afternoon, yes.
Where are you going to go in Spain?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to go to Barcelona, Mallorca, and Madrid.
Wow. Yeah. And for play or for work?
For play. Finally. I've not had a vacation like this in forever. So it'll be nice to kind of be a tourist and not like a busy bee.
And amazing places to go see art as well. It's so amazing. Okay, final question. You've been sitting on a magical rocking chair all this time, which you probably...
I felt the magic.
Yeah, you felt the magic. And so you're granted 3 wishes.
Oh, wow.
Anything you want.
Anything you want. And the rocking chair is gonna... most likely gonna make it happen because it's magical, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what would those 3 wishes be?
Let me see. Oh, it's so hard. I would like to be able to live and continue to practice my work without having limitations, and just having that, being able to have access to all the materials and all of the opportunities that it takes to have my career grow. I also always, it's like, good health, please,
That's a good one.
Yeah. And I think just continuing to be surrounded by friends and family, like that love, really, that's what I found throughout my life, is that when I surround myself with good people who really care about me and I care about them, it's, things just go right. So, just having that wherever I go, wherever I end up, that's, I'm guided in that path and not down a different one. Mm-hmm. So,
all right.
Those are good 3 wishes.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming
Deming.
Today on the 4th of July.
4th of July.
Yes.
With all your family history, it was a perfect fit, right? It's like the Mayflower and the Declaration of
It's always wild. There's always some new thing. They're like, oh yeah, you didn't know that? And I'm like, well, what? I'm like, oh, okay.
Incredible. Well, thank you, Elisa.
Thank you, Maria. And this is, I guess, the conclusion of our 12th session. Stay tuned next week. We will be having artist John DeFaro visiting us, and it should be fun.
And it's going to be on Monday again next week. Alrighty.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.